So we walk back into kind of the main area, and as I'm walking back down this long glass hallway of conference rooms, the last room on the left before it opens back up into the main kind of common space, I see a shadow in the back of the room of someone just sitting here like this. And the lights were off. And I was like, took a double take, and I could see that it was Kobe. I mean, listen, I only got to meet him once, so it's not like I was best friends with him or something. But that one experience was my favorite episode before he passed away, and it's still my favorite episode. And I remember being just really kind of like, I booked the interview the night before, and there was a publicist on the phone. There's someone I was working with who was like, hey, I think we might be able to book Kobe. He's got a new podcast that's just launched. He wants to, it's in the top 100. He's trying to get like number one. This was in 2018, I believe. And they were like, but he's only available like next month, like at this day and time for like a 20-minute window, like in a month away. And I go, get back on the phone with this publicist, whoever that reached out, and tell them, do not get off the phone until they commit to tomorrow. Because if this thing is scheduled out a month from now, it's not going to happen. I just know this. I booked Tom Brady at months in advance. I had a flight to go to Boston. Like, I had everything lined up and confirmed, triple confirmed. And then a couple days before, hey, we're going to have to reschedule. Cancel the flight, everything. And the rescheduling still hasn't happened. This is 4 years later. And it's like, I'm always following up. And so I just said, like, hey, listen, this needs to happen tomorrow. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Do not hang up the phone until they confirm tomorrow. I'll do any time, any place. You tell me where to go, I will be there. And they called me back like 30 minutes later. This is probably like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And they're like, okay, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, his office in Orange County. And I was like, done. I'm, making calls with my team. Like, hey, we're getting up at 5:30. I'll pick you up. We're driving down there. Let's get the equipment at the place. I'll put it in the back of the car, bada bing, bada boom. And I had a show I was going to that night. My friend Lindsey Sterling had a show in LA that I'd already committed to going to. And so I'm like leaving in an hour to go to this performance of hers. She's an amazing violinist. And I'm at the show, and I have no time to prepare. Zero time to prepare. And I'm excited. I'm trying to be present at the show, but I'm also like, oh, shoot, I got to leave. She doesn't go on till like 10:30 at night. So I'm there till probably like 11:30, 12, because I wanted to make sure I was good on that commitment. Go home, sleep for 5 hours. My videographer, Tiffany, gets in the car, and I go on Google and tell me everything I need to know. Like, do all the research right now. So we have about an hour and a half drive to Orange County, and I'm researching everything from childhood, past, present, all this stuff. We're listening to episodes of his latest podcast, which is called The Punies, which is an amazing kids podcast with sports themes, narrative show. And I'm like just trying to download as much as I can. I also always try to find 3 mutual interests that each guest and I have together. And I try to speak into the power of the 3. And every time you can find, I did this, 12 years, 13 years ago when I was using LinkedIn to reach out to celebrities, CEOs, and just big influencers. In the first sentence, I always used the power of 3, which was something we both have in common, an interest, a person we both have in common, an association we have in common, whatever, a state we're both from or went to school at, something like that. It's always got to be the power of 3. And I remember thinking, like, I just looked at who Kobe was following, and luckily it had a couple people that I'd interviewed and knew that he was following, the way he had mutual friends. And I think he was only following 80 or 100 people at that time, right? Something small. And one of them was Novak Djokovic. And I just had Novak on, maybe the year prior, and was building a nice friendship with him, like a true friendship, not just an interview, but afterwards we connected a bunch. And I knew his passion for the Olympics. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about these things, these mutual interests. But I also, the whole thing was surreal, because I get there at probably like 6:15, knowing that I have an 8 o'clock start time. And the publicist said, you've only got 20 minutes, because he had a bunch of stuff back to back that whole day. So I get there at 6:15, 6:20-ish. The assistant lets me and Tiffany into the office. Turn the lights on. I walk into the office. I'm thinking I'm the only one there, because the lights were off. She turns the lights on, and she says, here's like the place where we normally film. I was like, it's not really like, I didn't really like the background. I was like, can we go look around the office and see if there's another place to set up? So she walks us down like this long kind of hallway with glass kind of boardrooms on each side. So you're walking down the hallway, and then each side is glass windows of conference rooms and offices into another big room on the other side of like a big open space. And as we walk down, we go into the other big room. There wasn't really a nice background. So we walk back into kind of the main area. And as I'm walking back down this long glass hallway of conference rooms, the last room on the left before it opens back up into the main kind of common space, I see a shadow in the back of the room of someone just sitting here like this. And the lights were off. And I was like, took a double take, and I could see that it was Kobe. Like, he wasn't facing towards me. He was like facing like back and just kind of like looking up. And he wasn't on his phone, and his computer wasn't turned on at his desk. And I was just like, to the assistant, I go, is that Kobe? Like, because that was a split second that I saw him. And I was like, is that Kobe? And she goes, yeah, he's been here for a little while already. He's normally the first person in. And he came here right after he did his workout with his daughter. They worked out in the mornings at like 4 a.m. And the one that also unfortunately passed away. And he does basketball and training with his daughter. Then he comes here. And I go, I'm an hour and 45 minutes early before 8 a.m. He's in here before me. And I was just, right then, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because right then I was blown away. I was blown away just by that one act of witnessing him with the computer turned off, the phone turned off, him in his office alone, lights turned off, just looking up, dreaming. And can only imagine, what is he thinking in his mind? Like, he must be rehearsing the day, planning something, visualizing the process of it, reflecting, who knows? I was so amazed at the leadership quality of just showing up, first off. Then we're setting up, and we're setting up close to his office. I can see kind of like a little bit of his office inside of it, but I can't see all the way to the back where he was. And so I was always wondering, like, is he going to come out? I'm sitting here for an hour and a half. No one else is here. We're setting up. Then maybe like 45 minutes later, around 7:15, a couple people come in. Then it's, 7:30, 7:45. Then someone goes into his office at 7:45 and the lights turn on. And I'm thinking, I've been sitting here for an hour and a half now, and he still hasn't come out. And I'm like, is he going to come out? I have no idea, but let's be ready. I'm trying to research. I'm trying to prepare. We're setting up the lighting, all this stuff. Now the publicists are coming in. More and more people are coming in. There's also another production company setting up across the office, because he was doing an interview with Lil Wayne right after me. So there was all these other production people and cameras getting set up now. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. And so the publicists are like, okay, Kobe's coming out in a few minutes. This is literally 5 minutes before 8 a.m. She was like, he's going to be coming out in a couple minutes. Again, she gave me a sheet with like front and back pages of all the things that I cannot talk about. And she goes, you've got 20 minutes when he gets out here. And so I'm thinking, okay, normally I go for an hour, because you really can't get much out of someone in 20 minutes, like 3 questions and you're done. But let me see what I can do. And I remember he came out a couple minutes before 8. And right away, he walks right up to me, super kind, super warm, super nice. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got like 2-3 minutes until we need to start. Every minute I don't get started is less time I have asking him a question. So Tiffany is like, got the mic, and she's putting it on him right away. We're sitting down in the chairs. And as we're just kind of getting ready, I know I've got a couple minutes, I just say right away, hey, Kobe, I just wanted to acknowledge you I've got a lot of friends who've been to the Olympics. I play with the USA national team for handball. And a lot of my Olympic friends in other sports say that in the past few Olympics, one of the greatest moments of their time at the Olympics is not winning a medal, but when they got to hang out with you, or you came and watched their sport. And I just want to say it's really cool that you show up for other athletes that way at the Olympics. And right away, he looked at me and just lit up. And he goes, man, you played handball? And I go, yeah. I've been on the team for like 7 years. It's, a dream of mine to go to the Olympics one day. He goes, I freaking love handball. He goes, I used to play team handball growing up in Italy because it's a massive sport in Europe, but it's pretty much unknown in the USA. And I had a feeling he would know what it is because he grew up in Italy. And he goes, I used to play handball all the time. What a great sport. That's amazing, man. And I said, yeah, it's great. So there's two things right there, handball and the Olympic connection. And I was like, but I need a mutual connection. And I said, I just want to, we have a mutual friend, Novak Djokovic, has said some great things about you. I've had him on the show and a bunch of other people. And he goes, Novak, that's my boy. Man, he's a killer on the court, this and this. And I was like, yeah, it's been fun to connect with him and learn about his mindset. And then after that, I just said, now it's like 60 seconds before I have to start. And I go, I just want to let you know, your team has told me, what not to ask about. And I know we've got a hard out in 20 minutes, but I just wanted to ask, is there anything else off limits that we shouldn't talk about or anything else, any other questions for me? And he looked at me and he goes, ask me any question you want and take as long as you need. And I was just like, oh, okay. Now the publicist was like, no, we got to wrap things up quick. But he was like, he told me, nothing is off limits. Ask me whatever you want, anything about his past, and take as long as you want. And just that was like, okay, I appreciate his willingness to go a little longer. We ended up doing it, I think it was about 40 minutes because the publicist was literally like going like this all for like the last 20 minutes, like wrapping up. So I didn't want to be pissing her off and, wanted to respect the whole situation. But it was I'd never seen an athlete or individual at that level open up the way he did. The way he shared his heart, the stories he told, how he told them, the things he just opened up about blew me away, that he was willing to be vulnerable at that level. And to be honest, that one interview unlocked so many new relationships because so many big leaders reached out to me and said, I've watched Kobe for years. I've never heard him talk like that. Never heard him express the way he feels about love and relationships and the specific moments in the court the way he did there. Which goes back to building relationships with people when you're having people on, like building relationship, even if you only have 3 minutes, what are you going to do to build the relationship so they feel like they want to open up to you? Putting in the reps over years of just practicing and seeing how can I get better, and making it about them, finding ways to serve their curiosity, finding that, talking about the things that they light up about, and finding those mutual connecting points as well, whether it be before or during. And it was a beautiful experience. So I'm just very grateful for the entire event. And then afterwards, I slowly started following me on Instagram. He messaged me and said, hey, would love to come back on sometime. I was supposed to interview him again for his next book. We were going to schedule it, but then I had my live event. And I remember debating, should I go back? My event was in Ohio. I was like, should I go back and do an interview with Kobe the day before to get the interview? But I was like, I'll be able to do it again. Now we're messaging each other on Instagram. He wants to come back on. He asked his team to come back on. I was like, we'll be able to book it again. And then a few months later, unfortunately, he passed away. So I'm grateful for that moment and that experience and that memory because it was a powerful one for me.
How do you think he's impacted how you approach your life?
Again, it was more of like the whole interview was amazing and how he showed up was amazing. But I always got to remember that he was there 2 hours before our interview. And it was kind of like, this is crazy.
This guy's he's putting it in.
He's just another level of intention, of visualizing what he wants. And I think he gives himself the time and the space to think and dream and be clear on what is my intention. That's what I'm assuming he's doing. And I've heard other stories. There's another famous story from another basketball player that said, when I went to an away game against the Lakers, I was like, I'm going to be the first one on the court. I'm going to show up early. And I went out there and there was no one in the stands. There was no one else there except for Kobe. And I trained for like an hour and a half, and Kobe kept training as well. and he didn't leave. Like, I got tired, and Kobe just kept shooting on the other side of the court and training, and I left, and he was still there. And he later tells a story about how Kobe just wanted to show you that, like, he was willing to put in the time before you and after you. And it's just like the mentality for me is the dedication is amazing. And I don't have that type of discipline, for sure. Maybe in some areas of my life sometimes, but not consistently like he has. And I think it's something that I can learn and how to improve that over time. So I'm really just inspired by his way of being.
If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly office hours where I help you with your business questions and giveaways. I gave away my Tesla a few months ago. I love you, and I'll see you out there. Amen.